Hi, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to look at an investor sourcing case study, and this is for a client I'm working with that is looking for a detailed database for SaaS, AI, and the software sectors. So if you're looking to raise capital in 2025 and beyond, this is a great video for you to watch. So the ultimate institutional investor database. So introducing a rare database of institutional grade investors sourced from my exclusive database of over 400,000 global capital professionals. For the first time ever, this powerful resource is available to help you access capital like never before. So this is an investor sourcing case study. This video highlights a custom investor search for a venture capital group looking for investors in the following three sectors. So it's AI, SaaS, and software. So I'm going to go through the database targeting workflow. You're going to see the spreadsheet coming up in a bit. Most of this video concentrates on the process of how I take a very large database and narrow it down for a client who is looking to target specific sectors and cases. So the majority of it is going to be on how I take the database from one side to the other. The presentation outlines the screening criteria and targeting process developed to refine the investor universe for a seed and early stage SaaS and AI mandate. Now, the structured workflow ensures outreach is focused on the most relevant LPs and co-investors, maximizing efficiency and alignment with the client's investment strategy. So the key database fields that we're working on are contact names, titles, investor type, location, geographic preference, website, email, sector specialization, investment strategy, and fund descriptions. To be clear, this is an institutional database. Actually, it's three of them that have been combined and worked on. And it's the first time I've been able to release it to clients. It's been updated as recently as 2025. Most of it has been updated in the last 2 years. So the top fund strategies in the database, so leading demand areas include venture capital. So that could include high growth potential in seed, early stage, and growth funding. Secondly, private equity and buyout, so strong appetite for established businesses and leveraged deals. And thirdly, the biggest one is real estate, stable asset-backed opportunities across global and regional markets. The majority of the clients that contact me are looking for real estate investors, institutional ones. Now, the rest of the database includes diversified alternatives. That could be infrastructure, direct lending and private credit, special situations, secondaries, fund of funds and co-investment, natural resources and energy, and hybrid multi-strategy funds. So the database includes 99,000 funds globally that have been launched since 2007, but I concentrate all my work for clients on 2022 to 2024 and some for 2025. Why is that? Well, the deployment cycle. Most venture capital private equity funds begin deploying capital 6 to 12 months post-close, meaning the funds raised in 2022 and 2023 are actively investing in 2024 to 2026. Secondly, dry powder availability. With typical 10-year funds, 4 to 5 year investment period, the capital will remain available until 2027 and beyond. The active window, I believe, that is 2025 to 2028 is still prime time for outreach, as many of these funds are still allocating to new deals. Now, regional nuance has to be taken into consideration. For example, Middle East funds, especially family offices and sovereign-linked investors, often operate on more flexible timelines compared to traditional Western GP/LP structures. So this makes 2022 to 2024 cohort of funds the strongest targets for founders and groups seeking capital today. So on the right-hand side, you can see I've developed a chart that describes the fund life cycle. So now I'm going to go through the workflow. I've kept this very low tech just to show you what I've taken as far as the database columns and cells. You're going to see this a little bit more on the spreadsheet, but I want to work out what it takes to take a large database and refine it down to a smaller set. So first of all, we look at the asset class. We're going to include venture capital, private equity only if the allocation to early stage venture capital is confirmed. We're not going to include real estate, infrastructure, natural resources, hedge funds unless there's a clear venture capital crossover. It's important to understand the client has identified and given me enough information to do the targeting, but they have not told me exactly what the company is, and they have not told me exactly what the sector is. They've given me some wider ranges, and that's how I've created this database. So the strategy I've used is we're going to start obviously with venture capital, early stage startup seed fits, growth optional if they co-invest in smaller rounds. We're looking for funds of funds, hybrids, secondaries, special situations, and balance. Focus on pure early stage venture strategies, add co-investment friendly categories as a secondary. Easy one is North America because this is a U.S. group. We can bring in Europe, Asia, Middle East, and Israel, Australasia, Americas, Africa, but that's only if the U.S. allocation is evident. So it's really kind of simple that we're targeting U.S. companies. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when I deliver the database, the client is still going to have to do more refining on their own. But the most important thing is, one, I'm supplying them with a database that they can't access without having to subscribe to really high-priced institutional grade databases. I've already got them, so it makes it an easy exercise. So basically, for the status, we're looking at raising first to fifth close, announced, evergreen, open-ended, and estimated. We're not including closed, liquidated, unknown, or sixth close. Fund structure is pretty common. It's commingled. That's a standard LP structure. Core industries. So what we've done in this case is I've looked at the, for as far as the core industries, it's information technology, business services, and IT. Broadened it out a little bit, and the client can always cut these down. I've added, included healthcare plus IT, diversified consumer discretionary, and financial and insurance services and IT. So that's optional if it's a fintech play. I've excluded all non-tech industries, energy and utilities, real estate, raw materials, pure consumer discretionary, without any SaaS or tech overlap. Industry verticals, very much the same. I'm adding artificial intelligence. I've done this because I've gotten enough of a brief to understand that that's the core play. I also know that on the client's website, most of their investments do include AI as far as the companies that they've raised funds for. Machine learning, deep learning, well, they match the AI profile. SaaS, cloud, big data, of course. FinTech, that's if SA, B2B is aligned, health tech, and Internet of Tomorrow. So optionary, secondary, blockchain, crypto, ed tech, robotics, 3D printing. Those are, the client may come back to me and say, listen, we want to add those. My sense is that they're going to be left out. So that's why they're part of the spreadsheet. They're part of the large investor profile, but I exclude them when I deliver the spreadsheet. And exclude hardware only or physical asset heavy industries. Investor type. So in this case, we're really looking, I've got the fund database as the main one, but we're going to see what other databases I've included that I consider off-the-shelf ones. We'll get to that in just a bit. So the critical filters I've looked at is family offices that could be single and multi, again, US, fund to funds that are VC focused, endowments and fund foundations with venture capital allocations, registered investment that's managed accounts if there's any VC exposure, pensions insurance if active in early stage VC, optional. Sovereign wealth I've left out because it's really a tricky one, and I've excluded investors without any early stage VC record. So this client has a very robust in company that they've invested in. So they really don't want any first timers. They really want to go with groups that already have a track record. So let's break this down. This is the investor targeting exercise. This is the recap. We started off with 99,200 global funds in my database, and the stage one, as I reduced it down to 24,800, that's the ones that have been launched since 2022 and 2025. That's the heart of the database. And stage two, reduced it down to 13,000 US-based funds, and then the final refinement, which is what really took the work as far as the amount of hours and a couple of days of working at this on a full-time basis. I came down with 2,688 target investors. So that's basically taking it from the wide sector and narrowing it down. But that's not all, because I'm adding some special databases for this client. So here is the matrix of what I'm including for this client. Because I already know what they want as far as the initial screening, you can see that's number 3 here, the fund database initial screening, SaaS software, AI. I've come up with 2,688 contacts. Now, there's around 1,823 emails on those. If you don't have the email, that's company emails, and I'm going to show you a little bit later on. When I show you the spreadsheet, you have individual contacts that you can be reaching out to with those 2,688 contacts or funds. So the scope and the details is pre-screened funds with sector focus on SaaS, software AI, or any related tech. I've included fund manager, asset class strategy, geographic preference, status, and core industries. And the purpose was to identify fund managers for co-investments or fund-to-fund allocations. So everything that you've seen in the video is number 3. Now, what I've included is a couple off-the-shelf databases that I've been working on for years on. And number 1, that's a seed investor and angel groups. Well, I know what the client is looking for as far as a raise, and seed investors and angel groups would fall into it. The best way for any founder to reach angel investors, in my opinion, is go towards the angel groups. The 100 angel groups in the USA that I have here, they probably cover 20 to 30,000 individual angel investors, so that's the best way to reach out to them. So 528 total emails, and that can include the firm, group name, contact name, their role, email. Some have company only, websites curated for early stage SaaS companies. This is immediate use for outreach. Now, one of the things about this database is really it's almost always a 2-step process. You're going to send an initial email introducing their firm, who they are, what they're doing, and they may be saying, are you the right contact for XYZ? And then if it is, then the next one is the more formal approach. That's really the way that you're going to do it. Now, let's look at the venture capital database. This is 156 contacts. So this is pure venture capital groups in the US, because although this company is a venture capital group, they will also partner or welcome investments from other VC firms. So again, this is specific to SaaS, software, and A1. Targeted VC engagement for co-investment and seed Series A participation. So basically, these 3 groups alone are going to give them a fantastic, robust database of contacts that will help them raise capital for this current group. Now, I've added some qualified targets down here on white that need refining for the sectors. In other words, these ones up here I've refined. I've taken them from a wide angle, narrowed them down. Number 1 and number 2, I've been working on those databases for a couple of years, so they've been refined many, many times. These ones here, I don't have the sectors. For example, we looked at RIAs in the early stage part of the video, though. So those are the registered investment advisors. They're optional add-on, 3,600 contacts, all emails. We've got the firm name, the vetted senior contacts. So these are all CEOs, managing directors, presidents, CCOs, chief investment officers. We have the emails and the websites, but there's no sector screening. In other words, I don't know whether they'd look at AI or software or SaaS. But one thing to keep in mind is this expands reach to high net worth investors via advisory firms. Each one of those firms represents a number of groups that that have investment advisors. So that 3,600 could mean 5, 6, 7, 10,000 individuals who have ultra high net worth clients. So you can see it's quite a large web. In fact, that's the best way to put a blanket over the ultra high net worth investors in the USA is go through the RIAs. RIAs get compensated by providing investment opportunities, and my gut feeling tells me for both these categories it's going to have a really good play. For example, number 5 down here, family investment offices. This is single and multi-family. It's an optional add-on. Again, the client did not ask for this, but it's my belief that most family investment offices in 2025 are going to have at least their eye out for AI startups, because really it's only something that's hit in the last 2 or 3 years. In fact, many times they might not have even had a chance to change their website or their preferences. Back to the amount, there's 690 of them here. Family investment offices are the holy grail of the investor ecosystem. And I'll tell you why. Is because they have a large amount of money. They move faster than sort of corporate groups. But the problem is when you go out to try to acquire a database for family investment offices, a lot of times, and I've done it myself, I've acquired lists, and the 690 contacts that I have here have been vetted. I have checked every single website, but not of just of the 690. The databases that I purchased from two large firms ended up being 5,000 family investment offices. That's how they were advised. That's how they were advertised and promoted. When I got those lists back to my office, it took me the better part of about 2 months to go through every single one of them. And what happened is you could tell that these were scraped. In other words, if the website had the word family in it and investment in it, they basically got thrown into this batch and they were sold off as family investment offices, which it is unfortunate. But so what I've done is I've cleaned them up. They're as refined as you're going to get. I've been working on these lists for about 3 years, and I generally refine them at least once a year. So this one has been recently done in the first quarter of this year because I've been working on a investment for a large real estate a group that we're going out to with those. So you have to be really careful when you buy databases from some of these groups that say, hey, we're doing this and we're doing that. They won't show you how. They won't show you a video like what I've shown you today. They won't. They'll tell you that they've been updated, but they'll give you no real assurance. At least for mine, I've done the manual work. None of these large firms do the manual work. So that's why I've included them. So what do we have at the end of the day for this client? Well, it's taken us a long time to get here, but I have 7,134 contacts. We've got 6,149 emails. So the client is going to be able to have a large set of data that they can now start to work with internally. This group has internal analysts that are going to go through this. This is not the end of the line. Now, let's take a look at the rest of the presentation so we can take a look at the actual spreadsheet itself. Before we get to the spreadsheet, one final thing. It's a bit of a database disclosure. My extensive database provides hundreds of thousands of global contacts, typically including profiles, emails, and websites, though not all details are complete. Now, it's been primarily compiled and updated from 2021 to 2025, but most of the updates have been in the last 2 years. This corporate resource may include contacts whose roles have changed. Now, it's designed as an excellent starting point for outreach. It's best leveraged and continually refined by organizations with dedicated data teams. I don't sell this to individuals. I only deal with corporate or institutional groups only. That way the database isn't used for spam. It's a professional database for institutional groups only, and it comprises a blend of individuals and companies, each with distinct investment criteria and operating conditions, so there's no guarantee your approach will be favorably received. Okay, I'm just going to go quickly over the spreadsheet part of it. If you want more in-depth information on the spreadsheet, just watch the previous video because I spent a lot of time on it. The idea of this video is just to show you the process of how I get to refining databases. So it's really two different types of things, but I want to show you how we start off. Number one, bottom left-hand corner, 99,211 funds. Again, these funds are from the 2007 all the way up to 2025. On the top you can see we've got the name, the background, inception date, asset class, the strategy, primary region, the status, fund size, fund manager, fund structure, core industry. So you can see it's a pretty robust database as far as the details that's included. Core industries, industry verticals, you name it. This is the information on the top row that I use to do the filtering, and then on the right hand side you get more information about where they are, their contact details. On this particular email part, you're going to get their business contact, so in other words, info at, admin at, that sort of thing. So then what I've done is I've taken that database and I've reduced it down to 2022 to 25 only. You can see we've got 24,799 funds, and that's the core years. Again, everything on the right hand side is the same. I just described it. Now let's go to the contacts. So this is important because this is the global contacts, the who's who in the fundraising and investment ecosystem globally, updated as far as December of 2024. You can see we've got 412,000 contacts, and anybody, the who's who, if it's a whether it's a fund manager, a private equity firm, venture capital, real estate group, real estate investors, infrastructure, whatever it is, as far as companies that are in the investment field, fundraising, or maybe looking for to sell assets, whatever it is. This is a global list. It's going to be a perfect asset for you to use if you're trying to raise capital or make contacts in the industry. So now let's take a look at the database that is going to be delivered to the client. Okay, so you can see here in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got it down to 5,755 firms, and we go back up to the top. So those are funds that have been raised, and very much the same as what you saw on the other spreadsheet. You've got the background, inception date, asset class, everything on the right-hand side is exactly the same. Now, the reason we have about 2,800 is as far as the number that's delivered, because the fund manager, in some cases, they could have 2 or 3 funds. For example, this one here, you've got 3 or 4. So that's why we ended up with 2,800. Now, I'm going to show you what the client is also getting. They're also getting the global database. Again, they're getting all 412,000, because these particular contacts don't apply just to the funds. They apply to many asset classes, many types of fund groups, investment banks, hedge funds, family investment offices, private equity. Again, anybody who's anybody in those particular industries. And again, it's a global firm. So that's another part of the database that they will be getting. And not only that, but they will also be getting the off-the-shelf databases that I've talked about in the early part of the video. For more information, contact DubaiInvestorsList.com. That's DubaiInvestorsList.com. Please like, share, and subscribe.